It's wild how a single word can change everything. Disappear. That's what she told me, standing in our living room, arms crossed like she was daring me to crumble. We'd been at each other's throats for weeks, maybe months. Small annoyances had turned into massive problems, and before I knew it, we weren't a couple anymore. We were just two strangers sharing a house. I tried to fix it. I begged her to talk, to be honest, to tell me what was missing, but instead, she said the coldest thing I'd ever heard. Why don't you just disappear? And for a moment, I actually thought about it. Maybe I should just pack up and leave, give her the space she clearly wanted. But then something inside me shifted. If she wanted me gone, fine. But I wasn't going to just vanish into thin air. No, I was going to disappear in a way that would leave a mark on her that she'd never forget. Then Jessica came into the picture. Let's call her Jessica. She'd always been there at parties, family gatherings, vacations. Not just my wife's best friend, but like family. And here's the kicker. Jessica noticed me. Even when my wife barely looked up from her phone, Jessica would ask how I was doing. When my wife ignored me during dinner, Jessica actually listened. At first, I thought it was nothing. Maybe I was just hungry for attention, desperate for someone to see me. But one night, right after the blow-up with my wife, Jessica sent me a message. Just 4 words. Are you okay? That was all it took. I opened up to her about the fights, the silence, the way my wife acted like I didn't exist. Jessica listened. She didn't judge, didn't tell me to suck it up. She just said, "You don't deserve that. No one does." The next evening, while my wife was out with her friends, I met Jessica for coffee. What was supposed to be a quick drink turned into 2 hours of talking, laughing, the kind of laughter I hadn't heard in my own home for years. And that laughter, it turned into something more, something dangerous. We started seeing each other in secret. At first, it was just chats. Then there were long glances, lingering hugs. And one night, after yet another fight with my wife, I drove straight to Jessica's. She opened the door and looked at me like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. Before we could second guess it, we crossed that line. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't, because for the first time in years, I felt alive. I felt wanted, and I realized my wife's cruel words had set me free. She told me to disappear, and I did, just not in the way she'd imagined. The affair didn't stay hidden forever. My wife started noticing the late-night texts, how Jessica wasn't responding as quickly to her calls, the excuses I made to leave the house. One night, she confronted me, her voice full of suspicion. She asked, "Where do you go when you leave like that?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You told me to disappear, and I did." "With your best friend?" she shot back. The silence that followed was deafening. Her face drained of color, then flushed with rage. She screamed, cried, threw things. Every emotion exploded at once. But the damage was done. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Her friendship with Jessica ended in an instant. Years of loyalty reduced to ashes in a single, cruel revelation. But Jessica, she didn't back down. She stood by me even when my wife tried to turn everyone against us. The fallout was brutal. Friends chose sides. Families whispered. My wife played the victim, painting me as the villain who betrayed her. But the people who knew us, they saw the cracks long before Jessica came into the picture. In the end, my wife got what she wanted. I disappeared from her life, but not as the broken, defeated man she thought I'd be. I disappeared with her best friend, the one person she never thought she'd lose. And here's the kicker. I didn't just disappear. I was happier than I'd ever been. Jessica, and I didn't fade into shadows. We built something real, something based on laughter, honesty, and connection, the very things my marriage had lacked for years. My wife was left in the wreckage of her own arrogance, realizing too late that words are power. She told me to disappear, and I took her at her word. So if you ask me if I regret it, the answer is no. I regret staying in a loveless marriage for as long as I did. I regret giving so much of myself to someone who never valued me. But disappearing with Jessica, that was the best decision I ever made. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. It isn't violent. It isn't even planned. Sometimes, revenge is as simple as taking someone's careless words and turning them into the very weapon that destroys them. She said, disappear. So I did with her best friend. And she'll never forget it. In the end, the house was silent. My wife's rage had burned itself out, replaced with a hollow stare of someone who finally understood what she'd lost. She had lost more than a husband. She had lost her best friend, too. And as Jessica and I stood there, calm and resolute, while she collapsed under the weight of her own words, I realized disappearing wasn't the end. It was the beginning. My wife had wanted me gone. And now I was gone in every way that mattered, never to return. Life has a way of turning bitterness into clarity. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: never let someone treat you like you're disposable. Walk away with your dignity intact.